Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome, everybody, to episode 133 of Two Goalies, One Mic. I am Duane Steinel, joined by the most famous redhead in all of Buffalo, New York. That doesn't live in Buffalo. Connor, really?
I don't know if that's true. I was trying to think if that's true or not. Maybe Brian Campbell? I don't know. I mean,
he's not from Buffalo.
From Buffalo. I mean, I can't think of another guy that's, I'll take that.
What's going on, bud?
Not too much. It's really hot out here, man. Dog days of summer. It's
been an absolute scorcher here in Buffalo, man. And
I hate this time of year.
I've hated it every single second of it. I hate the heat. I hate the extreme heat. I can't do it.
Same. Grew up in a rink, so I'm not quite used to this myself. But climate change. It's brutal.
Yeah, it sucks. It definitely sucks. It exists and it sucks. But just actually before we went live, I had a moment of like straight stupidity. So, I bought Chips Ahoy, the Reese's Cup flavored Chips Ahoy, and I was super pumped to eat some. Opened a package, and I always drink it with milk. And I live by myself, so I just drink it out of the carton because who cares, I drink out of the gallon jug. And I bought a whole bunch of different stuff, things to drink while shopping. And for whatever reason, while eating these cookies out of the package, I opened the half gallon thing of Tropicana. Just chug that with a mouthful of cookies.
Oh boy.
Instead of the milk. And when I tell you, it was so gross, dude. It was so disgusting. I spit cookies all over the front of my fridge. So bad. So bad.
That's really tough. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a rough look for sure. Glad I live by myself so nobody could else experience that horror. And honestly, sin of cookie eating. But anyways, man, obviously not a lot of hockey news, but some big hockey news. A guy, and I worded this in a tweet earlier, and as a Red Sox fan, I fucking hate the Yankees. But there are players on the Yankees you can't help but respect, and it's impossible to hate. And those two guys for me were always, I would say, obviously Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera. Just impossible for you to hate those two guys. Just can't do it. Who was the catcher?
Posada. Jorge Posada.
I didn't hate Posada either. Like, you know what I mean? Like a couple guys, but mostly those first two. I would say that there is a pretty sizable hatred even before this season for the Boston Bruins outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Like I feel that actually before we continue, the Blackhawks have announced the sudden passing of their owner Rocky Wirtz.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I am going to save my feelings for that until after we get through the good stuff in remembering Patrice Bergeron's career, because I'm going to need a little bit to talk about that. Anyways, but, spoiler alert, I was talking about Patrice Bergeron. I think that he is a guy that is impossible to hate. I just can't. The guy is so stand up more so away from the ice than on the ice. We all remember last season, Tage was having some family issues. His wife was rushed to the hospital. I want to say it was blood clots. I could be wrong. Before the opening face-off, he went up to Tage and offered his, support. And, I remember it was a thing. Or I don't know if it was the opening face-off. It might have been, I don't think it was the opening. It would have been the second period opening face-off. But people thought that maybe it was, hey, nice. Most people thought it was for a play he made in the previous period. But it wasn't. It came out later. Lance Lasowski reported that he was offering his support and making sure he was okay with what happened with his wife. And that's just a testament to the type of guy he was, the human being he was. You never heard a bad thing about him, even on the ice, man. One of the most least penalized players in his time in the NHL. I don't think I could ever remember Patrice Bergeron ever getting into a fight, ever making a dirty play, not that I can remember at least. Or just, doing some of the things that his teammate Brad Marchand gets criticized for, and, couple clicks for Patrice Bergeron in his career, because he's a guy that I think you could model any player any kid wanting to come into the game of hockey can model their game off of, because he is the definition of a complete hockey player. Virtually was nominated for the Selke Trophy every single season, won it 6 times, won a Stanley Cup, 2 gold medals, a junior championship, and over 1,000 points. But again, I think so. The person he was away from the rink was even better than the person he was on the rink.
Yeah, I'd say so. And the person he was on the rink was incredible. I mean, he's objectively one of the best defensive forwards in the history of the game.
Yeah.
6-time Selke winner, 3-time All-Star, like you said, Stanley Cup champion, Olympic gold medalist, stayed with the Bruins his entire career, almost 1,300 games. I think he was one of 7 players left in the league that had played a playoff series against the Sabres. And given how long it's been, that's really, really saying something. I think there's only 6 left now, and unfortunately Milan Lucic is one of them.
Back with the Bruins.
Yeah, he's been around forever. He's, like you said, he's unhateable. He played the game with a level of respect and understanding that not a lot of guys do. I think especially in the younger generation these days, it's a little bit more about personal statistics and flashiness and getting your name out there and getting your profile and your hockey DB and your elite prospects and your highlights out there, rather than make the responsible defensive play, especially as a forward. And he always did that. He legitimately is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think that's without question. And that's coming from a lot for a guy who didn't put up that incredible of numbers. I think, maybe that's a debate. I don't think it is personally, given how much he gave to the game of hockey and how much of an impact he had. But I would put him in first ballot.
First ballot for sure.
And I think a lot of people would too. And it's probably not a debate.
I hope he's Canadian too.
Yeah, I think that helps regardless. But no, he's the man. And I think it was pretty incredible, the changing of the guard, so to speak, when Dylan Cousins stripped him when they were in Boston on New Year's Eve this past year in overtime in the defensive zone to start that 2-on-1 with Alex Tuck to eventually set up the game-winning goal to win the game. I think that's kind of what we are all expecting. I think it's a way too high of a standard for Dylan Cousins, but that's the type of game that he plays, and it seems like the type of person he is off the ice as well. So if Dylan Cousins turns out to be half of the hockey player and man that Patrice Bergeron is, I think we'll all be happy with his career. So that's really saying something. And salute to an incredible, legendary career.
And I remember too, watching highlights from that. I want to say it must have been the Olympics back in their primes when Crosby, Marchand, and Bergeron were on a line together.
Oh yeah.
Talk about unstoppable. Those guys worked magic together. They were unstoppable. And on Olympic, I want to say it was an Olympic-sized rink.
2010,
I know at the Olympics it varies between both, but just an unbelievable display of just pure hockey, pure hockey. You know what I mean? What they did together en route to gold. And I'd assume I'm assuming that Bergeron was probably on that World Cup team that won too, World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah.
I'd assume he would have been
sure
on that team. But just an incredible athlete. Obviously I want to lead off the show with that. Just I don't have a single bad thing to say about him. I can't remember a single moment on the ice where I ever thought, "Fuck that guy, fuck Patrice Bergeron," other than maybe when he's scoring against Buffalo. But not that in his tenure with Boston was there ever an important game.
One of the best faceoff men ever too. I'm not sure what necessarily is a very good faceoff percentage, but he's nearly at 60% for his career.
That's insanely good.
And he was over 60 for the last 3 years of his career. So that just shows the type of commitment that he used towards the end of his career, probably when he wasn't at the height of his skills physically, and he was still one of the best faceoff men in the league. I think a lot of Sabres fans will really, really speak to that, just given how bad the team has been at faceoffs for, the past 10, 12 years. Having a good faceoff man, especially in the defensive zone, that really factors in, obviously, to being a good defensive forward. But that was a trademark of his game, how good he was on the draws. And it speaks to every single aspect of his game.
Players like him go to show why faceoffs are extremely important in the game of hockey, because when it comes to maintaining possession, whether in the offensive or defensive zone, having a guy like that in your team, it makes a huge difference. On important draws, especially when you have last change, it matters so much. Comment here from Matt: I hate to like a Boston player. I hate pretty much every Boston team, but you have to like Bergeron. It's true. He's just like, he doesn't give you any reason to hate him. He really doesn't.
Yeah. He was never under 50% for his entire career in faceoff.
It's nuts.
Only in his rookie or I guess in 2007 when he started taking draws, he won 88, lost 87, and then the rest of his career, the lowest he had was 54.6%. Won 1,300, lost 9,000, like just ridiculous stuff. And it's not an easy thing to do. Takes incredible timing and precision and toughness, really, because sometimes you don't win the draw immediately and you have to fight for it and get it over and get it back, use your feet, use your gloves sometimes. That's the part of his game I'll remember most.
Yeah, and it's the amount of help he gave his defenseman in his own end. Like, he went above and beyond, whether it was blocking shots, knowing what lanes to get in, knowing where the puck was going to be in the defensive zone, just being able, keeping things simple, not stupid. Just using every facility around him to play hockey well in his own end. Not just well, that's an understatement. But I just, and this is why I didn't hate that the Sabres brought back Zemgus Girgensons, because I truly believe Zemgus Girgensons would be in the conversation for a Selke every single year if he was like a 20-goal scorer. He would be. Because that's how good he is in the defensive zone. He's just that good. He takes care of business. He always has. And you're not going to find a guy who skates harder either on the back check or the forecheck than Zemgus Girgensons on this team. You're just not going to, because he knows his role and he takes it seriously and he takes pride in it. And if he was a guy that could score 20, 25 goals a year, he would be in that conversation every year. He would be. I'm not trying to make, all the time say, hey, let's talk about Zemgus Girgensons, but it's true. Like, guys like that have such a huge value in the league. And I feel like it's very underappreciated how much having a guy like on that team, having a guy like that on your team is needed. For us, it's just a shame that he doesn't have that same scoring touch that Patrice has, where you can use him in so many more situations.
Yeah, Sabres haven't had that type of guy in a long time. And coming back to Cousins, it seems like that is the type of guy who he could turn into as he continues to develop his game and get stronger and get better in the defenseman, get better on faceoffs. Because Cousins is going to score 25, 30 goals for his entire career with the amount of skill that he has and the amount of speed and the power of his shot and everything else. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I would love for him to turn into a perennial Selke candidate. If anyone can do it, I do think it's him. And it seems like potentially there's a passing of the guard in the Atlantic Division here. Boston's going to look a lot different without him. I think part of the reason they were expected to go all out in the playoffs as they were this year, and they really sold the farm for everything that they did, was because they had a pretty good feeling that this was Patrice Bergeron's last season. So it makes it even a little bit more disappointing that they lost in the first round after having such a historic first regular season. But sometimes just that's the way it is. They got a bad draw with Florida. But doesn't take anything away from his career. First ballot Hall of Famer, just an absolute legend, Patrice Bergeron.
Yep. And, you look at that team and kind of where they go now. Nobody really scares you down the middle there anymore. It's all on the wings. I mean, you just don't replace a guy like Bergeron. I still think he had close to 30 goals last season. At the age of, I want to say he's 30.
He just turned 38 yesterday.
Yes. So you just don't replace a guy like that with anybody. I don't care if you have Pasta and Marchand on the wings. You just don't find that guy anywhere. So I don't know what direction. I would say that Boston, at least in the Atlantic Division, has the worst depth down the middle in the entire division right now, and that matters. And we know especially here in Buffalo that how much that matters, because we went such a long time without having a potent number one, number two center group, or not even just talking about four centers, just two centers that you could easily slot in as your number one, number two guy. We had Eichel, and that was Eric Stahl. The last time before that would say Eichel and O'Reilly. You know how that ended up. Didn't last very long. But we were so thin down the middle, and I think it's the most important position in the league to be deep at. To have four, at the very least, three capable centers who can contribute to scoring. We haven't had that. Now we do. And now you look at Boston and look at their rosters. Shit, man! They're gonna have to drive. They're gonna have to drive the play offensively from the wings.
I mean, Pavel Zacha is their number one center now, and I don't think anybody's afraid of.
No, nobody's afraid of
Pavel Zacha. And Charlie Coyle, their second line center. Morgan Geekie, third line. Patrick Brown, who they signed this offseason, is a fourth line center. Milan Lucic is back, as we discussed, which I don't think anyone is afraid of him anymore.
No. All you got to do is skate. All you got to do is kind of try and skate.
Aside from him potentially hitting your goalie in the corner, but that's a different discussion. Boston's not nearly as terrifying as they were last season. Of course, they're still going to be very solid defensively, and as long as they get Jeremy Swayman back, which it looks like they will, they still have one of the better goalie 1-2 punches in the league, and their defensive unit is obviously pretty good, but they did lose Connor Clifton. I would say the Sabres objectively have a better forward group. They have a better forward group than a lot of teams in the Atlantic, and even, definitely in the Western Conference. But it's not nearly as good as it was, and I would argue that they have a potential to not only not win the division, but potentially borderline wildcard team. They could get a very good defensive performance as they did last season, but this team's not nearly as scary as it has been recently. So we'll see.
Yeah. And one of I mentioned earlier too, away from the rink, Bergeron, I do know that during the scandal that happened in Chicago with Kyle Beach, it was Bruce Cassidy and Patrice Bergeron that literally made their entire team sit down together and watch the Kyle Beach interview with Rick Westhead. Because he thought it was important that everybody see this and know the impact, and essentially, come face to face with it. And if this ever happens to one of your teammates, that don't ever put winning before what's right, which is what happened in Chicago. Whether, you want to speculate, what players knew, how many players knew, who knew, he made them sit down and watch that. And that speaks to a true leader. It really does. Sorry, my thing is moving. It speaks to a true leader because, he puts character over a lot of things. And that was a situation where he did. And I'll transition that too. Obviously, in our next subject we mentioned earlier, chairman of the Chicago Blackhawks. W. Rockwell Wirtz, better known as Rocky Wirtz, passed away today at the age of 70. I've spoken quite a bit in the past about my thoughts about Rocky Wirtz. Even after the Kyle Beach scandal, how he handled it with Mark Lazarus during a town hall, essentially. Listen, I feel bad for his family. I feel bad, whenever you lose a loved one. It's terrible, but I'm not going to sit here and mourn the loss of Rocky Wirtz. Just not going to, because speculation or not, I believe that he didn't know about what happened to Kyle Beach and put, as we just spoke about before, put winning before what was right. So sorry, rest in peace to Rocky Wirtz. And I apologize, I feel for him and his family, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I thought he was much older, 70 years old. And it's described as sudden too. So obviously very tragic. You can never discount that regardless of the situation. But yeah, I mean, Blackhawks organization has been pretty problematic for a long time now. And it seems like they're at least trying to make amends for it, for all the hurt that they've caused and the problems that have occurred in the past 10 to 15 years. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation when this type of thing happens. You don't know necessarily how to feel. And other than, of course, feeling bad for the family, you don't want to publicly trash the guy, but you can't ignore the things that he oversaw or ignored or turned a blind eye to in the process of running an organization like that.
It's kind of like when Bobby Hull passed away last year.
Similar.
It sucks. Brett Hall, obviously, USA hockey legend. Unfortunately, he had his impact on Buffalo back in '99. But it's hard to ignore the major black eye to the game that he caused, not just to the game, but to the people around him. And the same thing with Rocky Wirtz. I just, I don't want to really contribute a ton of time to him. He's part of an original six franchise. Won a few cups, maybe at the expense of what was right. But at the end of the day, feel bad for his family. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to dedicate too much time to it because I have feelings that I just won't share on here about him. So, other things to talk about, contract stipulations. I know we kind of talked about it before we came on live because we're kind of ignorant. I am ignorant. You might be a little ignorant about how those things work. Obviously, here in Buffalo, you heard about Naeem Hines, running back for the Buffalo Bills, most notably remembered for his 2-touchdown performance last year against New England in the playoffs. Was it in the playoffs or the final game of the season?
Final game of the season. It was the first game after the DeMar Hamlin game.
DeMar Hamlin, yes. Opening kickoff to the game, he runs it back for a touchdown. Like the announcer during the game, I think it was Romo. I forget who Romo and who somebody else.
Jim
just
Nance.
Storybook. Is it Jim Nance?
Yeah.
Just absolutely storybook. The way that all played out, and then he did it again later on, I believe, on a punt return.
Another kickoff return, 2 kickoff
was
returns.
it 2 kickoff returns? I thought it was a kickoff and a punt. Okay, 2 kickoff returns. But, yesterday was sitting stationary as it was reported on Twitter. Do we call it Twitter anymore? Is it X?
Yeah, I don't know if they've officially changed the name yet. I know they've changed the logo and all of the branding, but as far as I know, I don't think they've got rid of the name completely. I think as dumb as Elon Musk is sometimes and as petty as he is, that would be so harmful to just like completely change the brand after everything it's already been through and its 15 years of existence. I hate the new logo. I can't get used to it. It's just so stupid. But I think it still is Twitter for now.
Okay, so as it was reported on Twitter, he was sitting stationary on a jet ski and was hit by another jet ski, causing a major knee injury, ending his season. Now, I don't know how these things work, so I'm not going to talk like I do, especially for a different sport. But how do you feel about that? Like, if you're we passed up. Okay, we passed up on DeAndre Hopkins. Cost too much money. We were interested, but now you find out with this happening with Nyheim Hines, whether it's his own negligence, somebody else's negligence. Obviously, it's a freak accident. You don't want to tell players they can't enjoy themselves in the offseason. But now, because of that, you're on the hook for that contract for a player that you're not going to see for a single snap this season, who's not going to contribute anything to your offense. And you kind of look at it, it's like, not so sure if I'm happy we brought that guy back now, because we could have lost out on a potential game breaker in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or OBJ or fill in the blank. So how do you feel about that? Should, in all of sports, should there be stipulations in contracts? Like, I know, again, the way it was explained yesterday that there is some stipulations with like water skiing and stuff like that. But do you believe when you pay athletes as much as you do that there should be stipulations in their contract? Non-criminal stipulations, obviously if a player is arrested for doing something heinous, that you should not be responsible for their salary.
Yeah, well, I think there are, like, especially with contact sports, like a lot of these guys like can't play basketball, can't go skiing, can't do something that would legitimately put themselves at physical risk. Like, obviously golf is not part of that. Like, all of these guys golf in the off season. And as far as I'm concerned, like going on a jet ski, like, especially if it's been reported as it was, like, this doesn't seem like an inherent risk involved with jet skiing. Like, this seems like a freak accident that he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it was a really horribly unlucky situation. So I can't imagine that what happened here, especially if it is reported the way that it was, would be a part of that type of contract stipulation. And yeah, I honestly think that it comes down to that type of situation. Like, if he was playing pickup basketball, I know that's been a really common thing with athletes. Like, they really stay away from it in the offseason because, like, you never know what's going to happen with a knee or your Achilles or your ankle or anything like that. But if you are putting yourself at risk from a legal perspective in another sport that could potentially hurt your chances of competing in your own sport, I think that's a different situation. I personally don't think this falls under that. I really do believe it's a freak accident, and they're going to do right by him by
I hope so.
Yeah, paying him this season. He also seems like a really good dude. He's good in the community. Yeah. He's never had this type of thing happen before. Also, the contract wasn't that big. I think he took a pay cut to come back to the team this season. And it was said that he was at least going to get involved in the offense a little bit more. I mean, he is the third, fourth-string running back, so it's not like it would have had a massive impact nonetheless. And he would have been the main punt and kick returner as well. So I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think this is just a really unfortunate situation that hopefully it might end his Bills career. Like, who knows what's going to happen after this season. But hopefully it doesn't end his career in general. Like, he's still a relatively young guy, and he's explosive, as we saw in that Patriots game and what we saw from his time with the Colts beforehand. Like, he's a very good player.
Very underutilized player.
Yeah, and I think he just came at the wrong time last season. I just don't think he had enough time to ingratiate himself into the offense. But no, in terms of this, I really don't think it falls under that umbrella of, wow, you were doing something that you shouldn't have done. Like, anytime you golf, like, theoretically a golf cart could run into your knee and you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. And does that include, under that umbrella, you doing something too risky outside of your own sport? Like, this really feels like a once in a lifetime type situation. So I don't think it falls into that discussion at all.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. In terms of hockey, like, I mean, maybe there's a way, maybe it is like this, injuries away from the field, non-football, non-hockey related injuries, where if you do hurt yourself doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, you only get paid a percentage of your contract, and the percentage that you're not getting paid does not count against the cap. Something like that. I think that, we take risks walking out our doors every day. I could get hit by a car when I walk out of my house, get by a car when I leave my house tomorrow,
I mean, look at Jack Quinn. Like, he tore his Achilles when he was training, was he not supposed to be doing what he did?
What Bills quarterback was it that like his season almost ended or whatever because he tripped on a rug?
Oh, Kevin Cobb.
Kevin Cobb, yes. I don't know if he
It was going to the stadium like from the tunnel, and he slipped on an area that was like next to like a rug or something. And yeah, that was also. I mean, that feels just like negligence, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's part of the Bills. But either way, yeah, I think there's a clear. It's not super. It's written into these contracts, I know, from a legal perspective, but like this does not feel like it's that at all. And same thing with Jack Quinn. Like, if you're training to improve your hockey game, like let's say it's on
that's a hockey-related injury.
Yeah, on a football field or a track or anything like that, that doesn't fall under it either. But if he's playing a pickup basketball game with his friends or something else, like these guys do that too, though. It's just a matter of like if it's super intense or if it's with people you don't know or if it's not just like shooting hoops in the backyard, like you got to be really, really careful because there is a lot of money on the line. There's a lot at stake. So maybe it emphasizes it's right before training camp and maybe it emphasizes that point for the rest of the guys on the team. Who knows? And same with the Sabres and like with Jack Quinn as well. It's just really unfortunate from both perspectives because it seems like two guys that had an opportunity to really, really contribute for both teams this season. And
now you have a guy in who's the other running back?
Damian Harris or Latavius Murray?
Latavius Murray, a guy who is like 6'3", but moves like he's the size of like a Nyheim Hines. Now a guy who's always been consistent throughout his career. Now he gets an opportunity.
Yeah, it seems like he was going to be the third running back anyway. So it really depended on how they were going to use Hines regardless. We don't need to get into the football aspect too much. But when I heard it, it's obviously unfortunate for him, but it doesn't make that much impact on the Bills this season. I really don't think so.
No. I mean, again, I think the running back position is James Cook's to lose.
For sure.
Damian Harris. I mean, I'd be cool with a 60-40 split because I think Harris is a good downhill runner, a guy who can find seams, find holes, but can still break a tackle. I'm excited for this Bills season, and if you're active on Bills Twitter, you've already seen the Dolphins fans have been running their mouths left and right for some reason.
What they do,
huh?
It's what they do.
Offensively, they don't scare me at all. The Jets scare me more than the Dolphins. I think Aaron Rodgers has some of the best weapons he's had. Obviously outside of why can't I think of his name?
Devontae Adams.
Yes. Devontae Adams, the deepest set of receivers he's had in a long time.
He's also older than Patrice Bergeron. And if you saw the picture they put out yesterday of their new uniforms, the all-white uniforms they're actually wearing week 1 against the Bills, he legitimately looks like he could retire tomorrow. He has more gray hair than I've ever seen a quarterback had, probably since Brett Favre when he went from the Packers to the Jets. I personally think his career is in decline, and there's a potential Russell Wilson to the Broncos type situation going on next season for him. But I guess we'll see week 1.
Wait, Russell Wilson? Oh, what do you mean Russell Wilson?
The decline that he has.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think
anybody saw that coming from Russell Wilson.
No, and I don't know.
And he had such good wide receivers.
Aaron Rodgers had some good wide receivers last season, and he had a pretty good offensive line, and he did not look very good at all. So
I don't know if he had great wide receivers. Lazard,
they were fine. He has a couple of them on the team with him this season. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's better.
Yeah, in New York, yes, but in Green Bay last year,
I don't know. I really don't think
their number 1 with 800 yards receiving. So
yeah, I really don't think he's what he used to be. But
no, not at all.
Maybe that's just me being optimistic as a Bills fan.
But my point is, they scare me more than the Dolphins and Tua. They just. The defense in Miami is probably more frightening than for me than what Miami, even with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Depending on what happens with Tyreek Hill with his legal troubles, like you still have Tua as your quarterback.
Yeah,
it's
Who knows if he's actually going to play a full season?
Yeah, so. Tua does not scare me at all. Anyways, remaining free agents, and of course Erik Karlsson still not traded. Still looks like the lead candidate could be the Carolina Hurricanes, but how much longer is this going to take? So it was like 2 weeks ago, Elliot Friedman said this should be happening in the next couple days, and we're still sitting here with no Erik Karlsson trade.
I'm just convinced there's going to be no hockey news for the next month and a half, and we're just going to sit here until training camp in mid to late September, and then it's eventually going to pick back up, and guys are going to decide on where they want to go. It just seems like it's just purgatory, or just a dead period. Nothing is happening. Everyone's trying to figure out their cap. Of course, Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power haven't signed their extensions yet, and I have to think that's somewhat cap related and number crunching and everything to do with that. The Hurricanes did sign Tony DeAngelo yesterday, and at least the response to that felt like, oh, maybe Karlsson might go to the Penguins or he might go somewhere else instead. It's only a 1 year, $1.6 million contract, so it's not like it's absolutely earth-shattering as far as a cap perspective. But Tony DeAngelo is strictly an offensive defenseman, and they already have Brent Burns, and they already have Jacob Slavin on their team, who's obviously a little bit better defensively. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure that would affect it too much, because I think the Hurricanes are going to go for it regardless, especially with the Bruins being out of it and the Panthers getting better. But, yeah, it just seems like it's kind of a staying period right now. Not too much is happening, and you got to think it's something related to the cap and where it is in the state of the league. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would say sometime, hopefully in the next month.
Yep. I mean, that for me is just the next big move. I mean, Patrick Kane, wherever he decides to go, wherever he decides to sign, okay. I mean, he's getting long in the tooth. Tarasenko, same thing. I mean, you look at the names that are left in free agency. Defensively, I would say, Matt Dumba probably has the most to offer on the entire list because of his age. Even though his play has declined over the last couple of years, he's still a defenseman. I think with a change of scenery, could be very, 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 could contribute quite a bit. He's only 28, and he can log over 20 minutes of ice time a game. Nick Holden with the Ottawa Senators, he's a vet, 12 years in the league, but defensively, those are your top two. And then you got Patrick Kane, David Krejci, who's probably retiring, Zach Parise, who's 38, Paul Stastny, who's 37, Tarasenko, and Jonathan Toews, who I don't even know why he's on that list. He's never going to play. I think he should just retire with his health, and I don't know where he goes personally. That's just
I mean, a lot of these guys besides Karlsson are all in the same boat. Way past their prime, way older. Maybe not Tarasenko as much, especially in terms of injury issues. That doesn't seem like he really has had too many of them in his career. But yeah, the league's getting younger, as we've seen. A lot of these guys who were draft picks in 2020, 2021, they're all going to be in the league, and even 2022 and 2023. I think there's a chance that potentially the top 5 to 10 picks in this past year's draft are all going to be in the NHL this season. So
Phil Kessel's a free agent. I didn't even realize that.
Who is?
Phil Kessel.
Yeah, he's a cockroach. He just stays around. He didn't contribute too much to the Knights Cup run. So who knows if he'll find a spot somewhere. But yeah, a lot of these guys on the older side, reality's gonna hit really quick. And maybe that's what Patrice Bergeron was thinking himself. He just turned 38. He realized that the league is getting younger and faster, and it's a different game than it used to be. So, who knows what's going to happen with a lot of these older guys.
Yeah, I mean, all Kessel's done his entire career is slam glizzies and score goals. So
love him. Love Phil Kessel.
He's literally defied the odds of what your prototypical athlete is supposed to look like, and he looks like me almost in terms of just shape. He said,
see that.
Goes out there and he scores goals.
Probably your closest player comparable.
Yeah, I would assume so. If you're gonna find an NHL player that you could easily find also playing men's league, I would say probably Phil Kessel. But yeah. I'm sure his lower body strength is insane though.
Yeah, his legs are tree trunks, I imagine.
Tree trunks, yeah, and it makes up for the flab up top.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. Again, there's just not a lot to talk about in terms of the NHL this week. Anything happening in men's league for you back out west? Anything?
We've won 3 games in a row. Had a shutout on my birthday, and then we won.
You told us last week.
5-3 this past week, and then we have 1 game this upcoming Thursday. To if we win, we're in the playoffs, and if we're not, we need some help. So we're basically the Bills and the Sabres of the past 15 years. We're right on the bubble. We're in the hunt, which is good because we were strictly out of it for most of the season. I was away for a few games, and then thankfully the prodigal son has returned. But yeah, big game this Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Unfortunately, so
the Chicklets Cups is obviously back in Buffalo in October, and we're trying to get our team. I know they offered early registration for returning teams from last year. It's opened up. I think it opens up tomorrow.
Did you play in it last year?
Yeah. We were in the top. We were in the top roller division, and we got screwed in the semifinal to make it to the championship. We lost, I think, by 2 goals, but the game-winning goal was scored. It's 4-on-4, and they had 6 players on the rink when they scored said goal, and no goalie was pulled or anything like that. And the refs were wearing sombreros and just not paying attention to anything. And there are certain rules in the roller for slap shots. Like, for instance, you can't come above your waist for whatever reason. But in our division, where you have a handful of guys who all play pro, like, you are allowed to come above your waist with your slap shot. And they called a goal. They took away a goal from us for a high stick, for stick being above the waist, which would obviously been detrimental for us, So they called the goal back for that, and they called a goal when they had 6 guys out in a 4-on-4. Like, it was just a mess, man. They got their refs out of a Cracker Jack box, but I thought we performed well. I'm a stay-at-home D guy. I don't play goalie. In roller, I refuse. Absolutely refuse to do it. I've
done it. I've done it a few times out here, and I absolutely hate it.
Hate it so much, dude. It's so much in your hips, your knees.
I feel like I'm gonna tear my ACL every single time.
Like, it's just, people don't understand. Like, I get asked, my buddy Greg asks me every single session, we do 30 and up. He's like, can you please play goalie? Please play goalie. We'll never lose a game if you play that. Like, because I was a stud in street and roller. Like, I was an absolute stud. That's where I made my bones in goaltending before I made the switch to ice. But, like, once I went ice, I never went back. Just like, why? I'm not 21 anymore. I can't do that. And he's probably right. We probably wouldn't lose a game. But I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it adamantly. I hate everything about it. And I would much rather just be a stay-at-home D guy, eat some pucks, wear a few pucks. And it's been this past session over the summer has been the toughest one. I can't seem to come out of a game without a giant bruise somewhere on my body.
Oh, yeah. I just got one the other day. Look at that.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I had one on my heel.
So brutal.
There's still a bump there on the heel of my foot. I actually tried to get out of the way of this shot. And this guy, he played a high level of hockey, and he put all his weight into this shot, and I saw it coming. And I was like, I have no problem eating a puck, but like I'm like, nope. Tried to get out of the way of it, let my goalie see it, and I made the mistake of turning my foot sideways while trying to get out of the way, and like kind of scoop myself out of the way, and it just crushed me right in the heel. Second I took that boot off, the whole foot started to swell up. The bruise was unreal, and there's still a tiny little bump there on the foot. And every time I put my goalie skate on, it hurts. It hurts because when you I have an older boot. I don't have one of the newer types of skate. I still wear the clown shoe goalie skate. And it hurts, man.
Yeah.
It hurts a lot. So
yeah, man.
I don't know, but yeah. I'm about out of stuff to talk about. Again, that's how slow it's been.
That time of year, there's not too much. I keep saying it, but next week, potentially, Duane and Power might sign their extensions.
Yeah, that was supposed to be done on July 1st, remember?
I know.
That was supposed to be reported. I'm not going to.
Maybe by August.
Stop who reported that, but it was supposed to be done on July 1st.
Yeah, who knows? Honestly, like, August is even slower than July for NHL news.
I hate getting down. You kind of forget about the whole Duane Owen Power thing. It's like, why aren't they signed yet?
It'll happen.
The recent announcement in Bill's owner, from the Bill side of things, obviously Tara Pagula taking over as president of the team, obviously with his wife still dealing with her health issues. Obviously he's taking over. But Jonathan Roth, who was hired to help with I forget his job position with like chief operating officer for the Sabres in PSC, is now also doing the same thing essentially for the Bills, which I'm not really sure how that makes sense, why you're going to have him do both. I understand you have a ton of trust in the guy, but I just don't understand. Like, and that's big news. Like, there are a lot of moves made. The guy, forget his name, essentially bridged the deal for the stadium. He steps
Ron Raccuio.
Ron Raccuio, yeah. He was the biggest part in getting the stadium deal done, and he randomly steps away without really any reasoning why. Why? I mean, he made a statement that he, he wants to, the typical, I'm excited to pursue other endeavors, yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, he had a pretty well-paying job here in Buffalo, a job of much importance. And you think he would have wanted to see this stadium deal thing through, see it to its end. I mean, you were integral in getting it done. And he moves away. I believe Roth takes over that position. A guy who previously, before coming to work for the Sabres and PSC, was with Fidelity Investments, and I think he worked with acquisitions, which I think led to the rumor of are the Sabres on sale in some way, shape, or form. Now he moves over to that same position with the Bills, and it's just I don't really know what to think of all that, and still we don't have a president of hockey operations in Buffalo. And now I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I think it's all above my pay grade, to be honest. I think from a business perspective, I think a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes that we're not really privy to, that I could never begin to comment on. So hopefully it's for the best. Hopefully they have a plan and the transition goes smoothly. It seems like this Roth guy, like you mentioned, he has a strong business acumen. So hopefully that helps from that perspective. And other than that, it seems like Kevin Adams and Don Granato have a pretty good hold on the organization, which we haven't been able to say for a long time. So I don't think the president of hockey operations is as important or is as like necessary as we thought it was going to be previously. And with the Bills, obviously Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have a stranglehold on that organization, and it seems to be in a really, really good place aside from the lack of long-term playoff success as we've seen in the past few years. But
yeah,
perennial contender. Guys want to come here. The team is in way better shape than it was 6 years ago. So I don't think we could ever complain about that. And yeah, I think it's obviously complicated with the Kim Pegula situation too, because we don't know the status of her health. We don't know everything that's transpired with that. Obviously, Terry Pegula has a lot on his plate in terms of running both teams and overseeing the staffs of PSE as well. So I think there's a lot going on there, and it would be wrong to state an opinion on that without exactly knowing the inner workings of everything. So I just hope it works out for the best, and each team can be as well managed as we think they are from the levels that we can see on a daily basis.
When I say like president of hockey ops too, I don't mean like the way we maybe meant it 5 years ago, because I agree with you, Kevin Adams and Don Granato, at least from a viewer standpoint, us looks like they have things under control. But with everything that's going on in Terry's life, both professionally, business-wise, and personally, it's kind of hard to be the decision maker when it comes to everything. And now you have this guy sharing responsibility with the Bills. Not that he was that guy, who is going to be overseeing. I would just like there to be somebody that can oversee what's going on at the lower levels with the Sabres. I guess. Like, I just, not somebody that's not just there to make hockey decisions, but business decisions for the Sabres. Our arena ranks near the bottom, if not the very worst in the entire league. I'm not gonna say Arizona State is in a better shape than I can't remember the name of her own. KeyBank Center.
It's Key Arena, right?
I almost said, pardon?
It's Key Arena, right?
No, KeyBank Center.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it just goes to show you don't live in Buffalo anymore.
I honestly thought it was Key Arena. I'm gonna look
it's KeyBank Center. But I would like to see more people have this, some transparency with that. We all see the writings on the wall that this team is going to be a successful team for the foreseeable future, maybe as early as next season. But how about the fan experience, not with just on the ice, but not sitting in seats that have experience. I've every year I spend in the arena, just there's certain parts about it that are just terrible. And, we're far below the average, in terms of fan experience, and it sucks to see, hockey markets that maybe, before a team came in there like Nashville, that you never thought would be a hockey market, would be a good hockey market. You see their fans have so much fun at games. And I want that here in Buffalo so badly. We just don't have it. And I guess I would like somebody in charge that's there to make those decisions. Much like what Ted Black was early on when Pagula bought the Sabres, and what LaFontaine, I believe, was supposed to be before that whole debacle. But anyways, if you're all out of stuff to talk about, I'm all out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I think I'm good. We'll see what happens here in the next week or two. But, yeah, hopefully more news. It's a slow time of year. And
did you watch that show, The Quarterback, yet?
No, I haven't. I've heard it's not great.
I've heard a lot. I was told that if you don't want to like Patrick Mahomes, don't watch it.
I mean, I'm not going to like him regardless. So,
there's that. And it was obviously announced, I think, that Josh Allen will be the next quarterback featured on The Quarterback.
Oh, did they announce that? Did they announce that?
I saw something on Twitter about it.
I saw that they had the quarterbacks picked out, but not if they were announced or not. But if that's the case, that'd be amazing.
If that is true, that's extremely exciting. And I'm actually an episode and a half away from finishing Sons of Anarchy, which I'm pretty excited about. There's like 25 minutes left in the episode I'm on now, which I'll go finish after this. And then I'm assuming the season finale is probably like an hour and a half long. But I'm super excited to see how that turns out and then start my next show, which, I don't know what that's going to be. But I did see on Twitter today, were you ever privy to pro beach hockey?
No.
You ever hear of it?
I haven't, no.
So down in Florida, ESPN2, it was around for like 2 years. It was called Pro Beach Hockey. And it was played on pavement in a rink, but behind the nets, there were vert ramps, essentially. Like, if you went behind the net to get the ball, you went up on a vert ramp, essentially, around the back of the net. They played with those hockey balls, I think, that had the water in them. And they played 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. Played in extremely hot weather, obviously on blacktop, which is nuts. But somebody tweeted about it today, and I wish they would do an ESPN 30 for 30 on where those guys are today that play pro beach hockey, because I think you would be into it too, man, because you watch clips.
Sounds entertaining. I don't know if you saw Slam Ball is back.
I didn't see that.
Slam Ball is back, and that sounds like the basketball version of pro beach hockey. So it's not out of the question.
No. And I saw Grinelli, obviously, from Barstool today. He tagged Buffalo Riverworks in a tweet about that. It's like, can we incorporate the Chicklets Cup somehow into, pro beach hockey? And not that would happen, probably wouldn't, but that would be fun if come October, when I go to gather a ball or a puck behind the net, I got to go vertical.
It sounds
definitely worth watching.
It sounds like a career-ending injury waiting to happen.
At my age, yeah, maybe 10 years ago for sure, but yeah. And I think they wore special skates too. It wasn't just they weren't just roller hockey, your normal roller hockey stuff. They wore special skates too to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, dude, we can wrap this up. Remember, everybody, this is brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case over on George River Boulevard. Just tell them the guys from Two Goalies and Mike sent you. Hurley, it's been fun. We will be back next week. Hopefully, I know he had some issues come up this week. I know he announced last week Andrew Peter was supposed to be on with us tonight, but he had to cancel last second, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll be on with us next week. We'll see. But this is episode 133 of Two Goalies, One Mike. I am Duane for Connor Hurley, Hurls. We will talk to you next week. See you later, and go Sabres.